Tony Stark built 85 Iron Man suits between 2008 and 2023. Most people know that number. What most people don't think about is what that number actually means. That's not an engineer iterating on technology. That's a man who couldn't stop, couldn't sleep, couldn't feel safe, building suits the way other people build walls, compulsively, obsessively, because the alternative was sitting still and letting the fear in. And when you trace every single major suit across all 11 years of the MCU, you don't just see a progression of technology, you see a psychological portrait of a man who was trying to outbuild his own trauma, one mark at a time. And the last suit he ever wore, the Mark 85, RDJ said it himself on the record. The last suit he has isn't even designed for him to survive using it. That's where this story ends. Let's start from the beginning. The Mark I was built in a cave in Afghanistan with scraps and machine parts scavenged from weapons Tony Stark himself had manufactured. Ho Yinsen helped him build it. The design team at Stan Winston Studios built a single 90-pound practical version for filming, and the back of it is noticeably less armored than the front. That was a deliberate design choice to reflect that Tony was building a forward attack escape vehicle, not a war machine. It's ugly. It's barely functional. The arc reactor powering it could only sustain it for 15 minutes. And it's the most important suit in the entire MCU because of what it represents. The moment Tony Stark's relationship to weapons flipped from commodity to consequence. He built weapons his whole life without caring who they killed. Then he got put inside one and had to think about it. The Mark I is the suit that happens when a weapons manufacturer is forced to become the weapon. He left it behind in the desert. The 10 Rings recovered it. Obadiah Stane later reverse-engineered it into the Ironmonger armor. That detail matters because the Mark I getting stolen becomes a running theme. The technology Tony builds keeps ending up in the wrong hands, and his response to that is always to build something better and keep it closer. The Mark II comes back in the United States, and this is the first time Tony has actual resources. Clean workshop, Jarvis, proper materials. The Mark II is the suit that establishes the foundational Iron Man design. Sleek, aerodynamic, repulsor-equipped with a fully functioning HUD. It's unpainted, just raw silver, because Tony was still solving engineering problems before aesthetics. And the problem it exposed was critical: high-altitude icing. At a certain elevation, the suit freezes up entirely. Tony uses that exact flaw to defeat Obadiah Stane's Ironmonger at the end of the first film, luring him into high altitude and watching him freeze mid-air. But before that, the Mark II gets stolen too. Rhodey takes it during their fight at Tony's house in Iron Man 2, and it becomes the basis for War Machine. Tony keeps building suits that other people end up wearing. He doesn't seem to notice the pattern. The Mark III is the first one that looks like Iron Man. Deep red and gold. Inspired, according to Tony Stark canon, by one of his luxury cars. Comic artist Adi Granov designed the Mark III alongside concept artist Phil Saunders, and Granov's work was so foundational that Jon Favreau reportedly spotted it on his own MySpace page and brought Granov directly onto the film. The Mark III fixes the icing problem by using a gold titanium alloy, adds the first advanced weapons system, and introduces the palm repulsors as offensive weapons. This is the suit Tony fights Obadiah Stane in at the end of Iron Man. It's the suit he wears when he flies over the city for the first time, and it actually works. And it's the template, the aesthetic DNA, that every single Iron Man suit that follows is built on top of. Iron Man 2 is where Tony's psychology becomes impossible to ignore, because Iron Man 2 is the film where Tony Stark is actively dying. The palladium in his arc reactor is poisoning his blood. He's replacing it with new elements and new reactors, new suits, while knowing that eventually none of it is going to work. The Mark IV is essentially a refined Mark III, a little brighter, a little more mobile. He wore it to the Stark Expo while being slowly poisoned, which is peak Tony. But the Mark V, the suitcase suit, is the one that changes everything. The Mark V is the first portable Iron Man suit. It collapses entirely into a briefcase. Tony carries it to a Monaco race and deploys it on the circuit when Ivan Vanko attacks with electrified whips. It's a weaker suit, fewer weapons, less armor, because portability required trade-offs. But what the Mark V represents is a shift in how Tony thinks about protection. He can't always be in the workshop. He can't always have prep time. He needs to be Iron Man anywhere, at any moment, without warning. The Mark V is anxiety made into engineering. It's Tony accepting that the world doesn't give you time to get ready. The Hulkbuster, Mark 44. Let's talk about this one properly because it deserves it. Tony built the Hulkbuster specifically to fight Bruce Banner. a contingency suit for a contingency friendship. It's stored in a satellite called Veronica, named, according to the MCU fandom wiki, as a reference to the Archie Comics character, because Bruce Banner's love interest in the comics is named Betty, and in Archie Comics there's a character named Veronica who competes with Betty. That is a genuinely ridiculous level of inside joke for a satellite designed to deploy a giant robot suit. The Hulkbuster sequence in Age of Ultron is one of the best action scenes in any MCU film. Tony beating a mind-controlled Bruce Banner through buildings while trying desperately not to kill him. The suit takes enormous damage throughout. At one point, a replacement fist is deployed mid-fight from Veronica because the original gets destroyed. The Hulkbuster isn't just a cool design. It's Tony's acknowledgement that his friends are sometimes the most dangerous things in the world, and he needs to be ready for that too. The Mark 46 from Civil War is the suit that Cap destroys. Not defeats, destroys. Steve Rogers gets his hands on the arc reactor in the chest plate and crushes it, and the suit dies. That's a significant moment because the arc reactor has been Tony's heartbeat since the first film. Literally, in the early movies, where it was keeping shrapnel from reaching his heart. Cap killing the suit by killing the heart is the clearest possible visual metaphor for what Civil War does to Tony's world. Everything he's built, everything he's protected, taken apart by the person he thought was on his side. And Tony has to crawl out of the wreckage of that suit, broken, physically and otherwise. Then comes the Mark L, the Mark 50, the nanotech suit, and this is the single biggest technological leap in the entire evolution. For Avengers, Infinity War, visual effects vendor, Framestore created Iron Man's Mark 50 suit, based on the bleeding-edge armor from the comics, which is made up of singular nanobots which move around his body to form a suit, and was developed alongside Marvel for about 2 years. The entire suit is stored in a housing unit on Tony's chest. The new arc reactor is also the container for billions of nanobots that deploy across his body in seconds, forming the armor layer by layer. Concept artist Phil Saunders explained the design philosophy directly on his ArtStation page. He wanted the nanotech to form organically, mimicking neurological, circulatory, muscular, and exoskeletal layers rather than flowing like liquid metal. He didn't want it to look like the T-1000 from Terminator 2. He wanted it to look like something alive being assembled. The Mark L gets put through the worst fight of Tony's MCU life on Titan. Thanos hits him with everything, ripping up the ground, a moon, throwing pieces of the landscape at him. Tony keeps the suit adapting the whole time, reshaping nanobots from damaged sections to reinforce others, creating weapons on the fly that don't exist in any of his previous suits. And he still only manages to scratch Thanos. One cut, one drop of blood. Thanos tells him he hopes his sacrifice is worth it, and Tony gets stabbed with his own nanotech blade. He survives, barely, and then he watches Spider-Man die in his arms. The Mark L is the suit Tony wears when he realizes that being Iron Man is not enough. After Endgame's time heist setup, Tony spends 5 years on a lake house building suits he'll never need. Or at least that's what it looks like from the outside. He builds 35 more suits between Infinity War and Endgame. Nobody sees most of them. And then comes the Mark 85. The Mark 85 is the final Iron Man suit. It's the suit Tony wears during the time heist, and the suit he wears during the Battle of Earth. The design was handled by Ryan Meinerding, a departure from Phil Saunders and Josh Nizzi, who handled most of the previous suits. The gold shoulder pieces are unique to the Mark 85, the only live-action Iron Man suit to feature them, pulling directly from the classic comic suits of the 1960s and 70s. The suit is nanotech like the Mark L, but more advanced in every measurable way. It creates an energy shield. It deploys weapons faster. It can generate AR glasses. It can physically stop Thanos from closing his fist. And Tony knew going into that battle that the suit wasn't designed for him to survive using the Infinity Stones. He knew it. He said it. He snapped anyway. The Mark 85 is not a suit built for protection. It's a suit built for sacrifice. And Tony Stark, a man who spent 15 years building armor because he was afraid of dying unprotected, afraid of being helpless, afraid of the world getting to him, put on the last suit knowing it was going to kill him if he used it the way he needed to. That's the full arc. Mark 1, survival at any cost. Mark 85, sacrifice at any cost. 85 suits built between those two moments, and every single one of them tells you something about where Tony Stark was emotionally, psychologically, and technically at that point in his life. The suitcase suit is anxiety. The Hulkbuster is contingency planning for the people he loves. The Mark L is the moment he accepted there are things he can't engineer his way out of. The Mark 85 is the moment he stopped trying to survive and started trying to save. Part of the journey is the end. He recorded that message before he left for the time heist. He knew. He snapped. And then he was gone. So here's the question I want you to answer. If Tony had survived the snap and built a Mark 86, what would it have looked like? What would he have been building toward after everything? Drop it in the comments because that answer says a lot about how you read his whole arc. Soon I'm going through every War Machine suit in the same format. Rhodey's evolution is more underrated than anyone gives it credit for, and there's a specific detail in the Endgame armor that most people missed entirely. Subscribe so you're there for it.